Good day, viewers. Today I'm going to tell you the reason why you don't let your past hold you back. Your past is a chapter of your life, but it's not the whole story. Sometimes we carry old pains for so long that we begin to believe it has become a part of who we are. We remember the people who hurt us, the opportunity we lost, the mistake we made, and the moments when we wish we had chosen differently. And without realizing it, we allow yesterday to control today. But you need to remember something. You are not the person you were back then. You have learned, you have changed, you have survived things that once made you believe you would never be okay again. Every painful experience has taught you something. Maybe it has taught you to recognize people who respect you. Maybe it taught you to stop abandoning yourself just to keep someone else. Maybe it taught you that love without honest is not enough. Maybe it taught you that sometimes losing someone is actually the beginning of finding yourself. Your past may explain why you feel certain things, but it does not have to decide what happened next. You cannot force someone to become the person you needed them to be. You cannot change the words someone said to you. And you cannot change the decision you made with the knowledge you had at that time. But you can decide what you do now. That is where your power is. There comes a moment in life when you have to stop asking, why did this happen to me? And begin asking, what experience is it trying to teach me? Because healing does not mean pretending that nothing happened. Healing means remembering what happened without allowing it to control your future. It means saying, yes, I was hurt. Yes, I was disappointed. Yes, I made mistakes. But I refuse to live the rest of my life inside that moment. Some people stay emotionally trapped in a relationship that ended years ago. They continue replaying conversation in their minds. They imagine what they should have said. They wonder why someone chose another person. They question their own words. They keep questioning themselves. Why wasn't I enough? But sometimes the real lesson is not that you were not enough. Sometimes you were simply giving your love to someone who was not capable of receiving it properly. Sometimes you were trying to build a future with someone who was still running from themselves. And sometimes the rejection that broke your heart was actually redirecting your life. Not every person you lose is lost. Not every ending is a future. And not everything that falls apart needs to be repaired. Sometimes things fall apart because you have outgrown them. Your past may set in heartbreak, betray, failure, embarrassment, regrets, or disappointment. Look at everything you have survived. Look at how many times you thought you couldn't continue, and yet you did. You are still here. And that means your story still begins in a written words. Stop punishing yourself for decisions made by an old version of you. That person did not know what you know. They were trying to survive with the emotional tools they had at that time. Forgive them. Forgive yourself. You do not have to carry guilt forever just because you made a mistake. You do not have to remain emotionally attached to someone just because you once loved them deeply. And you do not have to remain the same person simply because others comfortably with old version of you. Growth still sometimes require you to disappoint people. It will require boundaries. It will require walking away. It may require choosing yourself after years of choosing everyone else. Yes, sometimes moving forward feels uncomfortable because even pain can become familiar. We sometimes hold on to familiar suffering because we unknown feels frightened. But there is an entire life waiting for you beyond the things you are afraid of realizing. New people, new opportunity, new experience, new versions of yourself. You cannot receive them while holding tightly to everything that has already ended. So stop looking backward, hoping that the past will suddenly give you a different answer. It already gave you the lesson. Take the wisdom and leave the pain behind. You deserve to wake up without carrying yesterday on your shoulders. You deserve relationships that do not require you to beg for clarity. You deserve love that feels safe rather than confusion. You deserve friendships that respect you. Most importantly, you deserve the chance to meet the person you are becoming. Your future does not need permission from your heart. Your mistakes do not disqualify you from happiness. Your heartbreak does not mean you will never love again. Your failure do not mean you are a failure. And the people who misunderstood you do not get to define you. One day, you may look back at the things that once destroyed you and realize they did not destroy you. They transformed you. They forced you to discover your boundaries, they showed you that you deserved better. They made you stronger, wiser, and more aware of who you truly are. So when the past calls your name, do not have to answer. When old memories returns, acknowledge them, but do not move back into them. When fear tells you that history will repeat itself, remind yourself, I am not the same person anymore. You can choose differently now. You can love differently. You can protect your peace. You can start again. And you are allowed to create a life that looks completely different from everything you have experienced before. Remember, your past was a lesson, not a life sentence. You were never meant to stay there forever. Take what it taught you, forgive what it cannot change, release what no longer belongs to you, and keep walking forward. Because sometimes the most beautiful chapter of your life begins the moment you finally decide, I will no longer let my past hold me back. There are moments when the past feels heavier than the present. You may wake up in the morning and suddenly remembered something that happened years ago. A person, a betrayal, a mistake, a rejection, a goodbye you were never ready for. And even though the moment is over, the emotional can still feel very real. That is strange thing about the past. It no longer exists in front of you, but it can continue living inside you. Sometimes we are not afraid of the future. We are afraid that the future will look exactly like the past. You were betrayed once, so you become afraid to trust again. You were abandoned once, so you expect everyone to leave. You failed once, you become afraid of trying again. Someone made you feel unworthy, so even years later, a small part of you still wonders whether they were right, but they were only part of the story. They were never author of it. You are, and it's something you have to make a decision. Will you continue living according to what happened to you, or will you begin living according to who you are becoming? Because your future deserves a version of you that is no longer constantly fighting ghosts from yesterday. You have spent enough time questioning yourself, enough time replaying situations you cannot change, enough times trying to understand why someone treated you badly. Sometimes there is a beautiful explanation. Sometimes people hurt
others because they are selfish. Sometimes people leave because they are emotionally unavailable. Sometimes people betray you because they have not learned how to be honest with themselves. And sometimes you will never receive the apology you deserve. That is one of the hardest lessons in life. Closure does not always comes from the person who hurts you. Sometimes closure is something you give yourself. It is a moment you stop waiting for them to explain. The moment you stop hoping they will finally understand your pain. The moment you realize that your healing cannot depend on another person's awareness. You may never hear, "I'm sorry." You may never hear, "You were right." You may never hear, "I should have treated you better." But you still move forward. You can still heal. You can still become free. Because freedom begins when you stop requiring the past to change before you allow yourself to live again. You cannot rewrite yesterday, but you can stop allowing yesterday to rewrite tomorrow. And maybe that means forgiving yourself for staying too long. Forgiving yourselves for believing promises that were never kept. Forgiving yourself for ignoring your institution. Forgiving yourself for being afraid. Forgiving yourself for loving someone who could not love you in the way you needed. You were human, you were hopeful, you wanted things to work. There is no shame in that. But now, you know better. And knowing better means you have the opportunity to choose differently. The purpose of healing is not to make you cold. It is not to make you stop loving. It is not to make you distrust people. True healing teaches you how to keep your heart open while keeping your standards strong. It teaches you that compassion does not require self-sacrifice, that forgiveness does not require reconciliation, that understanding someone's behavior does not mean accepting it, and that loving someone does not always mean they belong in your life. Sometimes the strongest form of love is letting go, not because you stop caring, but because you finally start caring about yourselves too. You may have spent years believing that strength means holding on to people, holding on to memories, holding on to relationships, holding on to dreams that no longer fits you. But sometimes, strength means realizing your grip. Sometimes, strength sounds like, "I love you, but I cannot lose myself trying to keep you." Sometimes, Strength sounds like I forgive what happened, but I will not return to what broke me. Sometimes strength would like, this chapter mattered to me, but it's over now. And sometimes strength is simply waking up one morning and deciding that you were tired of carrying something that was never meant to follow you forever. The person you used to be may have tolerated things that the person you were becoming would never accepted. That is growth. Do not be ashamed of your old self. Thank them. They survived long enough for you to become wiser. But you do not have to remain loyal to an identity you have already outgrown. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to change your boundaries. You are allowed to change what you want. You are allowed to walk away from situations that no longer reflect who you are. You are allowed to become recognizable to people who only knew you when you were hurting. And you are allowed to build a peaceful life, even if chaos was once all you knew. Sometimes peace feels familiar after years of emotional turbulence, and may even mistake peace for boredom. You may wonder why healthy relationship does not give you the same emotional highs and lows. But love was never supposed to make you constantly anxious. Love was never supposed to make you question your worth every day. Love was never supposed to require endless suffering as proof of loyalty. The past may have taught you to associate intensity with love, but the future can teach you something different. Love can be calm, love can be consistent, love can be honest, love can feel safe, and perhaps the greatest thing you can do for yourself is stop expecting your future to repeat your past. Your past relationship is not a relationship. Your past failure is not every opportunity. Your past disappointment is not every outcome. One closed door does not mean every door will close. One person choosing not to see your value does not make you less value. One chapter ending does not mean your story has ended. There are people you have not met yet will love parts of that other ignorance. There are places you have not visited yet where you will feel completely alive. There are conversations you have not had yet that will change the way you see yourself. There are opportunities you cannot even imagine right now, but you have to leave room of them. And that means realizing some
of what you were carrying. You cannot walk freely into a new life while dragging every old wound behind you. Healing does not mean forgetting. It means remembering without bleeding. It means being able to tell the story without becoming trapped inside it again. It means seeing the person who hurts you and realizing they no longer have power over your emotional states. It means understanding that what happens was painful, but it is not longer happening. You are here now. This moment is few. This moment is yours. This moment is real. And every day you are given another opportunity to decide who you want to become. Maybe today you choose peace. Maybe today you stop checking on the person who hurts you. Maybe today you delete the conversations and have reread 1,000 times. Maybe today you stop comparing yourself to the person they chose. Maybe today you stop asking why someone could not recognize your worth, because your worth was never dependent on their ability to choose it. A diamond does not become less valuable simply because someone mistake it for a glass. And you do not become less worth of yourself because someone failed to appreciate you. Stop giving people from your past authority over the way you see yourself today. Their opinion was shaped by their own wounds, limitations, fears, and perceptions. It was never an objective measurement of value. You do not need to prove anything to them. You do not need to become successful so they regret losing you. You do not need to become more beautiful so they wish they had stayed. You do not need revenge. You need freedom, and freedom is when their regrets no longer treats long matters. Freedom is when you stop imagining the day they came back. Freedom is when your happiness no longer requires them to witness it. Freedom is when you genuinely say, whether you understand what I lost or not, I'm still moving forward. That's the power. Not making them suffer, not making them jealous, not making them regret. Simply because you're becoming so deeply connected to your own life that their life opinions becomes irrelevant. There will be a day when the memories return. Healing is not always a straight line. Sometimes, some days, you will feel completely
free. Other days, a song, a place, a photography, or a familiar smells may bring everything back. Do not mistake that moment for failure. A memory returning does not mean you need to return. Missing someone does not mean they belong in your life. Feeling sad does not mean you made the wrong decision. You can miss someone and still know they were not good for you. You can love someone and still know they never choose you. You can appreciate the beautiful moment without romanticizing the pain. Two things can be true at the same time. The relationship may have mattered and it may still not end. The person may have loved you in the only way they knew how to, and that love may still have been insufficient for what you needed. You may forgive them and you may still never allow them to access you again. That is emotional maturity. You do not have to turn everyone who hurts you into a villain in order to justify leaving them behind. Sometimes people simply cannot go where you are going. Sometimes your next chapter requires a version of you that no longer fits inside the old story. So stop being afraid of becoming someone new. The version of you who survived your past was strong, but the version of you who builds your future still needs something more than survival. They will need courage, they will need faith, they will need boundaries, and they will need self-respect. Also, they will need the ability to say, I do not know what exactly that comes next, but I know I cannot stay here. And that is enough. You do not need to have the entire future figured out before you move forward. You just need to stop walking backward. Take one step, then take another. Choose yourself today. Choose yourself again tomorrow. And eventually, you will look behind you and realize how far you have traveled. One day, the person you cried over will simply become someone you used to know. One day, the situation that consumed your mind will become a memory. One day, you will talk about the experience without feeling the same weight in your chest. And one day, you may even be grateful that something did not work out, because you will finally see what it was making room for. Maybe the ending was not punishment. Maybe it was protection. Maybe the rejection was not proof that you were unworthy. Maybe it was redirection. Maybe losing what you thought you wanted was necessary for you to discover what you actually deserve. to trust the process of becoming, trusting the visions of yourself that's slowly learning how to let go. You do not need to rush. You simply need to keep choosing forward. Your scars are evidence that wounds can lose. Your mistakes are evidence that you have lived. Your heartbreak is evidence that you were brave enough to love. But none of these things should become a prison. Your life is bigger than the worst thing that have ever happened to you. Your identity is bigger than your mistakes. And your future is bigger than your fear. So stop asking the past for permission to be happy. Stop asking people who hurt you whether you are worthy of being loved. Stop allowing old failures to convince you that trying again is pointless. You are allowed to begin again at 20, at 30, at 40, at 50, at any age. There is no expiration date on becoming the person you were meant to be. And becoming again does not mean that your previous chapter was wasted. Every chapter brought you here. Every mistake you thought has something. Every heartbreak reveals something. Every ending prepared you for another beginning. So carry the wisdom, carry the strength, carry the lesson, but leave the chains behind. You do not need them anymore. The past already taken enough of your time. Do not give it a future too. Lift your head, open your heart again. When you are ready, trust yourself more than you did before. And walk towards the life that is waiting for you, because the person you are becoming deserves more than a life built around old wounds. They deserve possibility, they deserve peace, they deserve love, they deserve freedom. And perhaps today is the day you finally tell yourself, what happened to me is a part of my story, but it's not the end of my story. I realize the versions of myself that had to survive. I forgive what I cannot change. I choose what comes next, and most importantly, I will never again let my past hold me back. Don't let your past hold you back. There is something deeply powerful about realizing that you no longer have to be loyal to the pain that once shaped you. For a long time, you may have believed that because something hurts you deeply, it would always have the right to follow you. But pain does not deserve permanent residence in your life. It may have entered without your permission. It may have changed you. It may have forced you to grow in ways you never asked for. But you still get to decide when it is time to stop crying it. And sometimes letting go is not one dramatic moment. Sometimes it happens quietly. It happens when you stop checking whether you viewed your story. It happens when you stop waiting for an apology. It happens when you stop imagining conversation that may never happen. It happens when you stop trying to prove that you are worthy all along. It happens when you wake up one day and realize that you have spent enough of your life trying to get an answer from people who were never capable of giving them. This is when something changes. You begin to understand that closure is not always a conversation. Sometimes closure is a decision that stops reopening the same wound, a decision to stop returning to places that cost your peace, a decision that stops begging life to give you back what it's already removed. Because not everything that lives your life is meant to chase. Some things leave because their season is over. Some people leave because they have completed their role in your story. And some endings happens because their versions of you that accepted less is no longer the version of you that accepted and meant to move forward. Growth often begins with discomfort. You may feel lonely when you stop returning to familiar people. You may feel confused when you stop repeating old patterns. You may even feel guilty when you start chasing yourself. But guilt does not always mean you are doing something wrong. Sometimes guilt simply means you are doing something different. If you spent years putting everyone else first, self-respect may initially feel selfish. If you spent years accepting inconsistency, boundaries may feel harsh. If you spent years chasing love, being still may feel uncomfortable. You're uncomfortable doesn't mean wrong. You are learning, you are rebuilding. You are becoming someone who no longer abandons themselves just to keep another person comfortable. And that transformation deserves pattern. There will be moments when your old self tries to return. You may feel tempted to answer the message, to reopen the door, to explain yourself one more time, to give someone another chance, even though they have already shown you the pattern. In those moments, do not only remember what you miss, remember what it cost you. Remember the night you could not sleep. Remember how often you questioned yourself. Remember how small you had to become to make the relationship survive. Remember the version of yourself that begged for things that should have been given freely. Consistency, respect, honesty, comfort, clarity. You should have never have to destroy your self-worth to keep someone in your life. Love that requires you to betray yourself is too expensive. And sometimes the strongest sentence you can say is, I love you, but I love myself enough to return. There is no weakness in loving someone who could not stay. There is no shame in having hope. There is no shame in having belief. But once you know the truth, you have responsibility to yourself. You have to stop confusing potential with reality. You have to stop loving who someone could be more than who they consistently choose to be. People show you who they are through patterns, not promises, not apologies, not beautiful words or spoken after they hurt you. Patterns. Watch the patterns, because your future will be built by what you repeatedly accepted. And if you want a different life, you have to become willingly to make different choices. That may mean saying no to someone who once dreamed of saying yes to. It may mean walking away without knowing whether they will ever come back. It means accepting that someone's questions will remain unanswered. But unanswered questions are still better than living in permanent confusion. Peace is more valuable than explanation. You may not need to understand every details why someone hurts you in order to know that you deserve better. Do not need to understand why they changed, why they lied, why they choose someone else, why they become distant, why they disappeared. Sometimes the answer changes nothing. Sometimes knowing why still does not undo what happened. And at some point, your energy becomes more valuable than your curiosity. You stop asking, why did they do this to me? And start asking, why am I still allowing this to have power over me? That question changes everything, because suddenly your attention comes back to you, your healing, your future, your choices, your life. You realize that you have spent so much time realizing someone else's behavior that you forgot to ask yourselves what you need. What do you need now? Peace, distance, rest, a new environment, different people, a new dream. Maybe you do not need another explanation. Maybe you need a new direction. Your future is not asking you to erase what happened. It is asking you to stop building your own identity around it. You are more than the person who was betrayed, more than the person who was once abandoned, more than the person who failed, more than the person who lost everything, more than the person who made mistakes. Those things happen to you. They are not the entirety of you. You are also the person who kept going, the person who learned, the person who rebuilt, the person who survived the days they thought they could not survive. Do not forget that version of the story. Pain cannot make us remember only what was taken. Healing teaches us to notice that remained Your strength remained. Your ability to love remained. Your ability to dream remained. Your capability to begin also remained. Maybe you have scars now, but scars do not mean you are damaged beyond repair. They mean something wounded you, and your body, mind, or heart found a way to close the wound. That is resilience. And resilience is not about never breaking. It is about discovering that broken moments do not have to become permanent identities. You can fall apart and still rebuild. You can close your direction and still find a new path. You can make wrong choices and still make a better one tomorrow. You can love the wrong person and still experience well to love later. Nothing about your past disqualifies you from receiving something better. I repeat, nothing about your past disqualifies you from receiving something better. Not your mistake, not your age, not your heartbreaks, not your failed relationship, not your opportunities you missed, not the years you believe you wasted. You are still allowed to want more, and you're still allowed to receive more. There is no rules that says your best days must already be behind you. Perhaps the most extraordinary part of your life has not happened yet. Perhaps there is someone you have not met yet who will make you understand why the previous relationship could never work. Perhaps there is a version of your career you have not discovered yet. Perhaps there is a city you have not visited, a friendship you have not experienced, a dream you have not heard about. Do not close the door to tomorrow because yesterday disappoints you. That would mean you allowed the past to hurt you twice. Once when it happened, and again by convincing you not to live fully afterward. Do not give it that power. If someone broke your trust, heal your ability to trust yourself first. If someone rejected you, do not reject yourself too. If someone left you, do not abandon yourself because they did. Stay with yourself. Choose yourself. Become the person you need when everything falls apart. Speak to yourself with the kindness you were never waiting to receive from others. Protect yourself without becoming closed. Love yourself without becoming afraid to love again. Do not need to become hard in order to become strong. Some of the strongest people remain soft. They simply become wiser about where they place their softness. That is the difference. But can still believe in love. But now you understand that love without respect is not enough. Love without consistency is not enough. Love without accountability is not enough. Love without honesty is not enough. And chemistry is not the same thing as capability. Sometimes the person you feel the strongest pull towards is not the person who is the healthiest for you. Intensity can feel like destiny when you have not yet experienced peace. But real love does not require you to lose yourself. Real love makes space for you to become more of who you are. So when someone from the past returns, do not only ask whether you still love them. Ask whether the relationship has actually changed. Ask whether their action match their words. Ask whether your nervous system feels safe around them. Ask whether you can be yourself without fear. Ask whether you are returning because of something is genuinely different, or because loneliness is making you the familiar look attractive. Familiar is not always safe, and missing someone is not always a sign to go back. Sometimes missing them is simply part of letting go. You can feel the emotions without obeying it. You can miss them and continue forward. You can love them and still choose the door. You can forgive them and still protect your distance. Forgiveness is not permission. Forgiveness is not forgetting. Forgiveness is not saying that what happened was acceptable. Sometimes forgiveness simply means I refuse to carry the passion of the experience any longer. That is for you, not for them. And when you stop carrying the anger, you may discover how much energy it was taken away from you. Energy that could not use to create love, to work, to travel, to learn, to dream, to live. Your life is happening, not 5 years ago, not in the relationship that ended, not in the opportunity you missed, not in the mistake you made. Now, this moment, and every moment you spend mentally living in yesterday is a moment you cannot fully experience today. That does not mean forcing yourself to forget. It means learning how to visit past without moving back into it. You can remember, you can honor, you can grieve, and then you can still return to the present, because the present is where power lies. The past is information, the future is possibility. But the present is where you choose. Choose differently. Choose what respects you. Choose what grows you. Choose what gives you peace. Choose the people you choose to choose. Choose the environment where you do not have to shrink. Choose the relationship where communication does not feel like a guessing game. Choose the life that the old version of you was too afraid to imagine. And do not apologize for outgrowing what once felt like everything. Sometimes, what once felt like home can eventually become too small. That does not erase the memories. It simply means you have grown. You were allowed to grow beyond people, beyond places, beyond identity, beyond old dreams, beyond old version of yourself. You do not have to remain who you are, simply because that one person is familiar. Become someone new. Become someone new who no longer negotiates their words,
Become someone who knows that walking away sometimes is an act of self-respect. Become someone who understands that being alone is better than being repeatedly disrespected. Become someone who knows that peace is not boring. Peace is a privilege. And after everything you have survived, perhaps peace is exactly what you deserve. So stop looking backward, wondering whether you made the right decisions. Sometimes the right decision still hurts. Sometimes the healthy decisions still make you cry. Sometimes walking away from someone you love feels worse before you feel better. Pain does not always mean you chose wrong. Sometimes pain is simply the price of the ending a cycle. And cycle ends when someone becomes brave enough to stop repeating them. Maybe that someone is you. Maybe you are the person in your family who learns to communicate differently. The person who stopped chasing emotional, unavailable love. The person who finally set boundaries. The person who healed instead of passing the wounds forward. You may not realize how significant that is. You are not only changing your present, you are changing what comes after you. Your healing changes what you tolerated. What you tolerate changes your relationships. Your relationship changes your environment. And your environment influences the life you build. Healing changes everything. So do not underestimate the importance of choosing yourself today. It may look like a small decision, but small decisions becomes patterns. Patterns becomes identity. Identity becomes destiny. Choose carefully what you repeatedly tell yourself. If I consistently say, I always get hurt, I never get chosen, nothing works for me, people always leave, your mind becomes searching for evidence to support your belief. So changing the language, not into realistic positivity. Into positivity says, I have been hurt before, but that does not mean everyone will still hurt me. I have experienced rejection, but rejection does not define my worth. I have made mistakes, but I am capable of making better choices. Some people left, but I did not lose myself. My past happened, but my future is still open. Your story changes when the way you speak to tell yourself changes. And perhaps you have spent enough years speaking to yourself through the voice of the people who hurt you. Their criticism, their rejection, their disappointment, their judgment gives you your own voice back. Ask yourself, who would I be if I stopped defining myself by what happened to me? Who would I become if I truly believe I deserve something better? What would I do if I was no longer afraid of repeating the past? Maybe you would love again. Maybe you would start a business. Maybe you would travel. Maybe you would apply for the opportunity. Maybe you would finally leave the situations that make you unhappy. Maybe you would become visible.
maybe you would allow yourself to dream again. Your past should make you wiser, not smaller. Let it teach you cautions without teaching you fears. Let it teach you discriminate without teaching you isolation. Let it teach you self-respect without turning your heart into stones. You survived for a reason, not so you could spend the rest of the year being afraid of life, but so you could live with great awareness. You do not owe your past your future. You do not owe your old wounds another year, another relationship, another opportunity, another night of sleep. At some point, you have to say, enough. I have learned the lesson. I have carried this for a long time, all enough. I am ready to put it down. And perhaps putting it down will feel strange at first, because you have carried it for so long that you forgot that life feels life without it. But keep walking. The lighter version of you is still there. The hopeful version, the curious version, the version that can laugh without immediate remembering what hurts, the version that can trust without constantly searching for danger, the version that can love without abandoning themselves. You are not trying to become who you were before the pain. You were becoming someone new because of what you learned from it. Stronger, but not harder. Wiser, but not bitter. Careful, but still open. Independent, but still capable of connection. That is healing. One day, you will realize that past no longer has the same emotional weight. You will remember the person and feel nothing about distance. You will remember the situation and feel guilty for how much you learned. You will take the version of yourself who cried over it and wish you could tell them, you are going to be okay. Not because everything will happen exactly the way you want, but because eventually you will not need it to. You will build something new. You will find new reasons to smile. You will meet new people. You will become interested in your own life again, and perhaps that is the real victory. Not getting revenge, not making anyone regret losing you, not proving that you were right. The victory is becoming happier enough that the old story no longer matters. That is freedom. Then you no longer need the past to be different. When you no longer need the person to return, you no longer need the apology. When you no longer need validation, when you can finally say, it happened, it hurts, I learned, and I am moving on. So whatever you are carrying today, remember this. You can put it down. You can begin again. You can choose another path. You can become someone your past never predicted. You can build a beautiful life after disappointment. You can love again after heartbreak.
You can trust again after betrayal. You can succeed after failure. You can feel alive again after losing yourself. The past may have shaped you, but it does not owe you. It does not get the final words. You do. And today, you can decide, I remember the lesson, but I will realize the pain. I will honor who I was, but I will not remain who I used to be. I will stop chasing what's already ended. I will stop questioning my worth because someone else fails to recognize it. I will stop letting fears make decisions for my future. And from this moment forward, I choose peace, I choose growth, I choose myself,